The ancient Greeks warned us about how you live your life and the issues that you'll be facing if you live it the wrong way. You probably won't be able to tell by this really bad drawing that I've made, but this is Plato's allegory of the cave. This is one of the most important stories, and I'll explain why. But for those of you who don't know Plato's allegory of the cave, basically the idea is there were these men that were trapped inside the cave, and they were chained up, and basically they would face the wall, and behind them was fire, and the fire would cast shadows onto the wall, and that's all the men would see their whole lives. They spent their whole lives looking at these illuminations on the wall, and that's all they believed life to be. Then one day, one of the men, actually his chains fell loose, and he decided to climb his way out of the cave. Now, this is the part where everyone forgets the rest of the story because they think it's just about a man escaping the matrix and climbing out of the cave. But there's one really important part of the story that people overlook at the end of Plato's allegory, and I think it's one of the most important lessons that you can take away. Because once the man actually escapes the cave and he looks around, there's the sun by the way, he looks around at this brand new world that he'd never seen before. His eyes adjust to the sunlight and he gets accustomed to the world that he's now discovered. So what he does is the man then decides to go back into the cave where he knows the other men are still chained up, and he tells them about this new world that he's found. He tells them about the sunshine, the trees, and the birds, and the people that he saw outside. But the men only notice one thing. They only notice that the man that came down back into the cave couldn't see because his eyes had adjusted to the sun. He was struggling to get through the cave to find the men, and the men that were still in the cave thought that he had gone blind. So they only saw the man for the problems that he'd faced. They thought that leaving the cave meant that you would go blind. But he wasn't blind. He just couldn't adjust his eyes anymore to the darkness of the cave, since he knew the truth that the outside was real. So the men in the cave stayed where they were because they were too scared to go outside thinking that it was going to kill them or blind them. Now, most people in their lives spend their time looking at the shadows on the wall. They decide that this is their truth because they're too scared to go outside because they believe that it will blind them. Now, a lot of people believe that this story is just about, as I said, escaping the matrix. You know, a lot of people will see escaping the cave as just making a bunch of money. But the way I see it is that it's physical change that needs to be acted on. He was in a cave and he decided to walk out. That's not a metaphorical change. It's not a spiritual change. It's not an emotional or a mental change. He physically walked himself out of that cave and his eyes adjusted to the new environment that he put himself in, the better environment. See, the thing is when you question your environment that you're in right now and you leave your environment to find answers, you change where you are to find those answers. It's almost impossible to return back to where you came from the same person. Everyone that you face, that you used to know, will see you different and you will see them different because your eyes have changed. And that's okay, because change is one of the most important things for human beings. See, I faced this when I turned 20. I decided to leave Scotland, where I was from. I decided to travel all the way to the other side of the planet. I lived in Australia. This was one of the biggest challenges I ever faced in my life. You know, one of the biggest uncomfortable feats or journeys that I embarked on. But it changed my eyes forever. It completely changed how I saw the world and how I saw home on the wall. So when I came back home, I could fit in again, but I still saw the world differently. My eyes had adjusted to a new light and they couldn't go back. See, I feel like for a lot of men, they feel trapped in this cave. They see the shadows on the wall of what life could be, but they don't know how to get out. A lot of men have no idea how to get out of this cave. They read self-help book after self-help book. They'll watch motivational videos until 3 a.m. They will do all these things that they think help, but they'll still feel lost at the end of the day, because it's nothing that you can do in your mind to get yourself out of the cave. You can't read about it. You can't learn about it. You can't optimize or strategize. The only way for you to get out of this cave is by walking it. You have to leave. You have to get out of your environment. That is the only way that you can find what's on the outside.